I bet you could just watch your horse all day long. After all, he is fantastic, hey? But today I want to talk about how you can watch him in a more strategic sort of a way by actually taking videos of you and your horse working together and then reviewing them from the perspective of being your own instructor or trainer. I have covered this topic over the previous 2 episodes. First of all, I told you how to take the videos. Then I explained what to look for when reviewing you, the rider. And today we're diving into what to look for when reviewing your horse. Okay, let's jump in. Hey there, and welcome to the Daily Strides podcast. My name is Lorna Leeson. I'm an equestrian trainer and coach, and I work with riders from all over the world to help them stop feeling so guilty about potentially ruining their horse. I hate when people say that, and actually show them how to begin working with their horse. And of course, I love working with riders who don't have a regular coach or a trainer on the ground with them, because I think there's so many of those riders out there, and I love helping them to actually get ahead and to help them just know that they're doing their best and that they're really and truly improving and making strides. So we've been talking all about creating these videos, okay, and using the videos then as a way to give yourself a little bit of feedback, okay. Remember, if you don't have the coach, if you don't have the trainer, if you don't have the instructor, sometimes you can feel a bit lost. But here's how you can start to use the video, okay? And all you need is a phone. There's nothing fancy with this, okay? So I've explained all this a couple of episodes back, so you can go back and listen to that. But I do think that when you are reviewing your horse, there are certain things that you can look for. And remember, you're doing this from the perspective not to judge, not to shame, not to feel bad, okay? You're doing it from the perspective that, okay, now I see things that I can actually work on that we can use in our next kind of session together when we're working together, and that we can begin to build on, okay? We can begin to develop and grow. And you can use this for groundwork, for lunging, for riding, for everything. It doesn't have to be just riding related. You can use it for all of the things. Any way that you can think that you can have an interaction with your horse, you can use video reviews to help to improve both what you're doing, okay, and that you both can move forward together. Okay, so as I said, we've already covered you, so I want to today cover your horse, okay? So often we can fall into the trap of seeing both ourselves and our horse as like one body, okay, when we're working together. And again, this can cover all the ways you work with your horse. And while it is, I think, really good to feel that way, I do think that when you're coming at it from improving yourself and improving your horse, it is important to be able to look at the two of you as team members, okay? And rather than just assessing the whole performance of the team, if there's any good like manager, coaches, trainers out there, they'll tell you that you have to look at each individual on the team as well, and then how they're all working together, okay? So I want you to do this. I want you to try and be a little bit selective in that when you're looking at you, you're just looking at you, and when you're looking at your horse, you're looking at your horse, okay? So that all being said and done, one of the biggest issues that I see happening with riders is that their horse is not thinking or working forward, okay? And if you are lacking, if your horse is lacking forwardness, nothing else is going to work, okay? Nothing. It doesn't matter what you do. It's not going to work. Well, it's not going to work in any sort of a lasting kind of a way, okay? You have to think forward, and your horse has to think forward. So that is the very, very first thing that I'm going to suggest you look for when you're doing a video review and you're looking and focusing on what needs to improve with regards to your horse. Is your horse working forward? Okay, working and thinking, okay? If he's flying around, and remember, forward's not, I think that's important to say, forward's not speed. Forward's not that he's like flying around 100 miles an hour around the arena. That's not forward, okay? That's rushing. They're different, okay? Running and forward are not the same thing, okay? But forward is that he's engaged in the process. He's an active participant. He looks like he wants to be there, and he's interested in what the outcome is, okay? That's forward. So that is the very first thing that you need to address when it comes to your horse. Now, the second thing kind of builds on that. It's more about the focus and the concentration. It's important to remember that when it comes to focus and concentration, they can be developed and strengthened over time. And there are a couple of different scenarios where, well, they mightn't be great, okay? So if you have a very young horse, okay, you may notice that, they're not as actively participating all the time in what you're doing. That's okay. You just have to notice it, and it's something that you're actively going to help your horse to strengthen, okay? So a young horse, you can have a green horse, or you can also have a horse that's coming back into work, because I think that focus and concentration, and you probably know this yourself, it's a little bit like a muscle. If a certain amount of time has passed since they've had to really actively use that muscle of focus and concentration, it can definitely weaken, okay? So you want to make sure that you are giving your horse the time, and that the amount of focus and concentration that you're expecting from your horse is the right amount for where your horse is on the journey, okay? So keep that in mind as well. Now, the next thing to look at will be responsiveness. And I know I do say all the time that responsiveness is usually a rider issue, but it doesn't matter. If your horse is not responsive, okay, that is an issue that needs to be dealt with. And what I would say here is that when you're asking a question, you want a fairly timely response. And timely is the key word in that sentence. Your horse may be the sort of horse that responds after 7 asks, okay? That's not timely. You don't have to ask 7 times. You want your horse that when you ask, and it depends on your horse now, I'm going to be honest, some horses are a little bit more like, whoop, get to that. And some are like, okay, I'll do it now. And they'll respond. So you know your horse. But what I'm saying is that you don't have to ask and ask and ask and ask and ask and ask and ask before your horse gives you the response. You want that you ask and your horse says, okay, let's do it. That is where you want to get to, okay? So again, this very often will come back to the rider. It may not be you. It may be something that he has learned from another rider or somebody else who was working with him if it's on the ground, okay? But it is something that you can definitely work on. So notice it. Notice the promptness of the response. Okay, are we taking like 5 minutes? I will now in a minute. Or is he like, yes, okay, let's do that. They are two very different things, and they can totally colour the whole work together, okay, going forward. So pay attention. Now, I'm also going to encourage you to look at the rhythm and the tempo. I think that when we work at rhythm and tempo, when we look at it, we're also bringing relaxation in there as well, because they can't exist without each other, okay? Rhythm and relaxation have to be together in order for the other to exist. So I do think that you'll probably notice, oh, look, my horse is very rhythmic. That's because horses are naturally rhythmic, okay? But it's the quality of the rhythm we're going for here. It's not so much that there's a rhythm. Of course, a rhythm is just a pattern that's repeating, okay? It's on repeat, it's a sequence. But it's the quality of the sequence. Like, I bet you know some terrible rhythms, okay? I do. I'm sure you do as well. So I do think that it's important to really kind of focus in on the quality of it. That's where you want to go, okay? And also whether or not your horse is able to maintain the rhythm, especially if you ask a different question. Something changes, okay? So what you look at maybe before, during, after transitions would be a good spot to kind of pay attention to, okay? Are we maintaining this all the way through? Or, oh, look, if it speeds up, oh, it slows down, okay? Notice things like that. And the speeding up and slowing down, it could be the rhythm itself that changes, but it also can be the tempo. That's the speeding up and the slowing down. So pay attention to that. You want rhythm, tempo, and of course that is going to bring relaxation into that conversation as well, okay? The goal would be to look for a little bit more clarity and definition within each beat of each stride. That's where you're kind of looking to get to, okay? I went kind of deeper into this a couple of weeks ago here on the podcast, so if you want to go back over that, you can find that there as well. But yeah, I do think that that's important. And then the final thing I'm going to suggest you keep an eye out for would be suppleness, okay? Bending, or the lack thereof. Because very often it's the lack thereof that's going to show up. Now, I think that when you begin to take notes, and this is why I do suggest you doing it for you and then you doing it for your horse. But like, start to mark out minutes, like, oh, look, at 10 minutes, 47 seconds, I noticed I was doing this. And then at 10 minutes, 52 seconds, I noticed my horse was doing this. There may be a bit of a correlation between those two things, okay? But definitely with suppleness. What you'll often find is that the horse can be braced against you, okay? And you'll often see them, they're kind of braced the wrong way. They look like there's a bit of a kink, okay, going on there. And they are the moments you want to pay attention to, okay? Like, how is he going through the bends, the corners, the turns? Is he falling in? Is he falling out, okay? Is there flexion through the jaw, the head, the neck, the pole? Do we have a bit of flexion going on there? And what I would look at is that it flows, like the curve of the horse, the bend, the flexion of the horse is flowing with the line that you're asking your horse to ride. Okay, there's always a line. You're always riding a line. So you want to notice that it is all flowing together, that your horse doesn't look like he's trying to go the opposite direction. And it can be very subtle. And as you get better at this, you'll notice more of the subtleties in it, okay? But it is important to begin noticing it and then addressing it in your further training going on. And as I said, when you take the notes and you begin to kind of put them side by side and you're like, oh, look, at 9 minutes 13, something happened. And oh, look, when I look at what I was doing then, okay, they line up pretty well. That's where then you can take a video, maybe a week or two down the road where you've practiced on this, you've been working on this, you take another video, you do another review, and you can begin to see, oh, okay, like we're busy improving that. That's definitely better this time round, okay? So the video reviews is really and truly going to help you when it comes to your riding, when it comes to being able to notice what's going on with your horse. Now, for many riders working alone, you really and truly are alone, and this may seem like an awful lot of time and effort. What I'm going to suggest is pop over to stridesforsuccess.com/virtual. We can actually get onto a virtual lesson together. It's real time, like I am watching you in your arena, you're riding, I'm talking to you, you're talking to me, totally online. I'm sitting here in the office, you're sitting in your arena, well, you're sitting in the saddle in your arena. Or we can do lunging or groundwork, okay? You don't have to be riding. But yeah, we can do all of that together. And there's video reviews in that as well. So I can show you what I'm looking at when it comes to your riding. You can find all the details over at stridesforsuccess.com/virtual. I highly suggest you sign up for a lesson. There is a special offer going on at the moment. And sign up for a lesson. We can be working together literally within this week. And we can see how we can improve for you and your riding. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Have a super day. Keep well, and I'll chat to you soon. Be good. Bye.